Now you got the Diddy situation where he jumps on a private jet, they say yesterday, and is on his way to the Cape Verde Islands.
And a lot of the evidence, alleged evidence, that's been gathered in this case was from those 2 raids that were conducted on his personal homes in Miami and Los Angeles. And the indictment names the things seized that he allegedly made videos of these performances that have been named freak-offs.
The news today is nothing short of shocking, and it's the kind of bombshell that no one saw coming. Imagine this. Just a few hours ago, the judge changed his mind, and Sean Diddy Combs, the man at the center of one of the most scandalous legal sagas in recent history, has been released on bail. That's right. After a week of being behind bars, facing charges that had everyone convinced he would never see the outside world again, Diddy is free. And it's not just any bail. It's reportedly an enormous sum. But what does that even mean when you're a billionaire? To him, it's probably the equivalent of spare change, and that's what has everyone talking.
That clearly there is a criminal investigation underway, and that they believe that there would be evidence of crimes in one or both of these homes.
This development has left so many people outraged, especially the victims who believed that justice was finally being served. They thought Diddy's time had come, that the nightmare was over, and that he would finally pay for everything. But now, it feels like a punch in the gut. The disbelief is palpable. Can you imagine a scene? Insiders have reported that Diddy was quietly whisked away out of sight, already settling back into the comfort of his lavish mansion, while everyone else is left reeling. It's as if the whole justice system just doesn't care.
Replete with very, very serious and salacious allegations, including allegations that Combs had cameras.
But here's the thing. As surprising as this news is, maybe it was inevitable. Maybe this was always the plan. If you've been following the story closely, you've probably noticed some strange details surrounding Diddy's arrest right from the start. He wasn't exactly caught by surprise. In fact, he walked right into it.
Took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs.
How many high-profile figures have you seen voluntarily turn themselves in, cool as a cucumber, with a demeanor that suggests they know something the rest of us don't? Diddy showed up for his arrest almost as if he had been tipped off that it wouldn't be a big deal. There was no attempt to flee, no attempt to hide, despite having the resources to disappear off the face of the earth if he wanted to.
You know, I think in federal court and for these charges, they would say it's routine, but in the public realm, this is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail.
He sat in custody, confident, maybe even smug, while the rest of the world thought his empire was crumbling. Now, with this bail, it's almost like he's letting everyone know he's got this under control.
The story we're tracking, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs on side watch at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center after 2 judges denied his request for bail. This as a grand jury is expected to hear new testimony from workers very soon. Good day, Lizette.
And the most jaw-dropping part of all, rumors are swirling that Diddy's ability to seemingly brush off these charges is because he's been working with the FBI all along. Yes, you heard that right. Insiders are starting to whisper that he's been an informant for decades, feeding information to authorities in exchange for his freedom. It's a theory that makes a disturbing amount of sense when you start to piece things together. Think about how many times Diddy has dodged serious legal consequences over the years.
And in this lawsuit, he claims that essentially P. Diddy was the Epstein of the rap industry.
Whether it's past altercations, controversies involving his business dealings, or even personal disputes, he always comes out of it clean, like he's untouchable.
With this newest lawsuit, this would probably only expedite or increase the amount of allegations and potential witnesses who could testify against Sean Combs.
This is where things start to get really interesting. If Diddy has been working for the FBI, it would explain so much about his career, especially the parts that don't quite add up. For years, people have questioned how someone with so much controversy surrounding him has managed to stay at the top for so long, unscathed by the kind of scandals that would sink any other celebrity. The answer could be that he's been playing a double game, acting as a key player in the entertainment industry while secretly reporting back to the feds. And if that's true, it means Diddy has been giving up secrets, not just about himself, but about others in the industry, people even more powerful than him.
That this is the end of the Diddy story as we know it.
It's chilling to think about. Insiders are now saying that many of the searches conducted at Diddy's properties in recent months weren't even about him. Instead, the authorities might have been looking for evidence that implicates other high-profile individuals, people who, like Diddy, are at the center of these circles of wealth, fame, and influence.
And Stacey, you say today's indictment reads like a mob indictment. What was most shocking to you of all these allegations?
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise.
There's talk that Diddy's lavish parties weren't just about indulgence. They were a way for him to collect dirt on everyone around him. His famous gatherings, the kind that attracted a list, celebrities, could have been part of a much larger scheme. After all, when you're at a party with someone, you're relaxed, your guard is down. And if someone like Diddy has a reputation for recording things, well, who knows what kind of compromising footage he's accumulated over the years.
Well, if he really was filming everybody, I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
This theory gets even more disturbing when you realize just how many celebrities and influential figures have crossed paths with Diddy. We're talking about some of the biggest names in the world. It's not just actors and musicians either. Politicians, business moguls, they've all been in his orbit at one point or another. If Diddy has been gathering intel on these people, it would give him enormous leverage. We're talking about blackmail on a scale that's hard to even comprehend. And that's why some believe that Diddy's release on bail is just the beginning. This isn't a victory for him. It's a signal that the real power players are moving behind the scenes, pulling the strings.
That he controlled every aspect of her life. He is accused of frequently beating her and would hide her in hotel rooms for days until the bruising and signs of abuse were gone.
And if we're being honest, Diddy may just be a pawn in a much larger game. There are whispers that the real masterminds, the ones truly in control, are still in the shadows, untouchable. Sure, Diddy is a billionaire and he's got influence, but compared to the people who might be backing him, he's small fry. These are the kind of players who never make headlines, the ones who operate behind the scenes, orchestrating moves that keep them insulated from any fallout.
Allegations that have become shockingly familiar against Diddy in recent months as he has faced lawsuit after lawsuit from women and men who have accused him of all manner of bad behavior.
It's entirely possible that Diddy is simply the face of a much larger operation, and his release is just the tip of the iceberg.
And I remember, like, I don't know if you know what his voice sounds like, but like, I felt like I was in the presence of his monster inside.
Now, let's break down some of the oddities in Diddy's career that make this informant theory so believable. First, let's talk about the accusations that have been piling up against him. We're not just talking about one or two incidents. There are years of allegations, everything from personal conflicts to legal disputes. Yet somehow, Diddy always manages to skate by.
Now, so what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released.
Remember when Cassandra Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, filed a civil suit against him? The accusations were horrific, involving everything from manipulation to orchestrating situations where others were involved. The very next day, Diddy settled the case. Just like that, it was over, and he was back to business as usual.
Basically what that means is the money that they're saying Diddy has to start paying this guy on October 1st, right. Diddy's team is like, hold on, we need an emergency conversation about why this should not have been granted. And they awarded him a TRO, which basically meant that Diddy's team was not allowed to sell any property in that state or anything related to what could be used to...
It's the kind of power move that makes you wonder who's protecting him, or rather, what information he's using to protect himself.
We all saw it posted yesterday all over our social media pages. Cassie filed a lawsuit in New York City against Diddy. Yikes. She's claiming she was stuck in a decade-long cycle of abuse.
Then there's the fact that federal agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami earlier this year. It's reported that they found a bizarre assortment of items, including countless bottles of baby oil and other supplies linked to his infamous private events. But here's the kicker. Despite all of that, Diddy's legal team has been nothing but confident. They haven't shown an ounce of worry.
Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because your evil doings are doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these.
In fact, they've been celebrating the news that Diddy will likely walk away from all of this with nothing more than a slap on the wrist, a simple fine, or maybe a suspended sentence. It's the kind of outcome that makes you question everything. How can someone face such serious accusations and come out of it so clean? This is where the theory about Diddy's connections to law enforcement really starts to make sense. Think about it. If Diddy has been working with the FBI, giving them valuable information about others in exchange for protection, it would explain why he's been able to avoid real consequences for so long. He's been playing both sides, building his empire while feeding the authorities what they need to keep him safe. And now, with these recent charges, it seems like he's once again managed to escape by leaning on the same connections that have kept him out of trouble for years. What's even more disturbing is that some of the accusations against Diddy involve more than just him. There's talk that these events, which have become a focal point in the investigation, weren't just about Diddy indulging his own desires. Instead, they may have been used as a way to gather leverage over other celebrities and politicians.
Rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than that.
Guests at these events may have thought they were simply attending another extravagant night, but in reality, they could have been unknowingly giving Diddy the ammunition he needed to keep them in line. It's no secret that in Hollywood and the world of big business, everyone's looking for an edge. And if Diddy has been sitting on a treasure trove of incriminating material for years, it's no wonder he's been able to operate with such impunity. This is a man who's been accused of everything under the sun, and yet he's always managed to come out on top. The question is, how deep does this rabbit hole go? And more importantly, who else is involved?
That's not the issue. The issue is, it seems as though he wants to kind of like exert power and dominance over people who don't really want it.
There are some who believe that Diddy is just the tip of the iceberg, that the real power players, the ones who have been pulling the strings, are still out there, hidden in the shadows. These are people who don't need to make public appearances or headline parties to control the narrative. They operate behind closed doors, ensuring that their interests are protected at all costs. And Diddy? He's just one of many who play the game, collecting dirt, making deals, and keeping the cycle going.
Everything that you're looking at, they're all tied in together. Every part, as crazy as this seems, as outrageous as it seems, it all ties in. Every bit of it.
What's truly terrifying is the idea that we might never know the full scope of what's happening behind the scenes. If Diddy has been acting as an informant, working with the FBI, then he's likely been feeding them information on others in the industry for years. Celebrities, politicians, business leaders, anyone who's crossed his path could have been part of his game. And now that he's out on bail, it's clear that this story is far from over.
This has to be a 100% culture shock. I can't imagine living a lifestyle of the incredibly rich and famous and then going into this very dark, impersonal, cold, austere facility.
As Diddy settles back into his mansion, far away from the prying eyes of the public, the question on everyone's mind is simple. What happens next? Will justice finally catch up to him, or will he continue to slip through the cracks protected by the very system that's supposed to hold him accountable?
New at 5, the legal troubles continue for Sean Diddy Combs tonight after a judge ordered the music mogul to pay $100 million to a Michigan man who says that he was assaulted by Combs in '97.
According to court documents, Derek Cardello Smith says Combs and then assaulted him during an after party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. But Combs never responded to the lawsuit in court.
And here's where things get even more intense. As Diddy relaxes in his mansion, likely sipping on some expensive drink, the victims are left horrified, scrambling for justice. Can you imagine the sheer disbelief they must be feeling? They thought this was finally over. They thought that Diddy, a man who allegedly orchestrated one of the most elaborate networks of abuse in recent memory, was going to face the consequences of his actions. But now, with him out on bail, the nightmare continues. What's happening behind the scenes is even more shocking. Lawyers representing the victims have already sprung into action, and reports are flooding in that many of them have reached out to the FBI, demanding that Diddy be put back behind bars where, let's be honest, many people feel he belongs. A class action lawsuit is already in the works, and it's going to be massive. We're talking about dozens, possibly even more, victims coming together to make sure this man doesn't get away with what he's done. This is shaping up to be one of the largest cases we've seen in the entertainment industry, and it's clear that the legal teams are preparing for a full-scale war. Now let's take a step back and dive into the sheer scale of Diddy's alleged atrocities. It's not like these allegations came out of nowhere. In fact, they've been bubbling beneath the surface for years. Ever since last November, when his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura filed that initial lawsuit, it's been like a dam broke, and the floodgates of accusations haven't stopped since. But here's the thing, as bad as Cassie's story was, it was just the tip of the iceberg. Since then, a terrifying number of victims have come forward, all telling stories that are disturbingly similar.
Dawn had the choice to file the case as a Jane Doe, and she chose not to do that. After giving it a fair amount of thought, she wants accountability, she wants justice.
Cassie's lawsuit, of course, is where it all began. She was with Diddy for over a decade, and during that time, she described a relationship that was completely controlled by him. From forcing her into situations she couldn't escape from, to emotional and even physical manipulation. Cassie's claims are gut-wrenching.
This is in the matter of Derek Lee Cardello Smith, MDOC number 267009 versus Sean Combs, Sean Puff Daddy Combs, also known as Sean P. Diddy, also known as Diddy, Bad Boy Records, label owner, founder.
But what's worse is how these accusations have multiplied. In her lawsuit, she outlined horrific encounters where she was made to facilitate or participate in disturbing acts. And all of it under Diddy's watchful eye. The power dynamics, the control, it's all there. What's especially chilling is how Diddy allegedly used the industry as his playground, dangling her career over her head to ensure compliance. This is someone who, at the height of her fame, found herself trapped, and Diddy made sure there was no way out.
Clients describe NBC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
But Cassie's claims weren't isolated. After her lawsuit, others followed. Take the accusations made by Joey Dickerson-Neal, who came forward just days after Cassie's bombshell. Joey said that her experience happened way back in the early 90s when she was a student. According to her, Diddy allegedly invited her out for what she thought was a casual dinner, but things quickly took a dark turn. She described being coerced into a nightmarish situation where she had no control. And just like that, another piece of the puzzle fell into place, making it clear that Diddy's alleged actions spanned decades.
Special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown unit, which means that any movement within that unit is controlled and coordinated, and no inmate moves outside of his cell without being in full restraints, to include leg irons, handcuffs, a belly chain, and at least 2, if not 3 staff members escorting them.
What's terrifying is how consistent these stories are. The power Diddy wielded over these women is beyond comprehension. They talk about the manipulation, the fear, the feeling that they were trapped in a game they didn't even know they were playing. Many of the victims describe how Diddy used his influence in the industry to make sure they stayed quiet.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Careers were threatened, lives were shattered, and it all happened behind the scenes. Diddy, meanwhile, kept building his empire, moving through the music and entertainment worlds as if nothing was wrong. And the people around him, they stayed silent, either too afraid to speak up or benefiting too much from his success to risk their own careers. What's even more disturbing is how these accusations span decades. Just look at the timeline. Cassie's lawsuit detailed incidents from the late 2000s, but Joey's claims date back to the 90s, meaning that if these allegations are true, Diddy has been operating like this for nearly 30 years, and he hasn't been subtle about it. Over the years, we've heard whispers from people in the industry, rumors of parties that took place behind closed doors where things allegedly got out of control. But no one ever came forward until now. It's almost as if the culture of silence around Diddy was so strong that people felt there was no point in speaking up until Cassie broke the ice.
Do you believe Diddy is a dangerous person?
Yes.
But let us not forget, Cassie and Joey are not the only ones. In December, a woman identified as Jane Doe filed her own lawsuit, making even more shocking claims. Jane Doe alleged that she was trafficked and manipulated by Diddy in the early 2000s when she was just underage. She described a situation that was almost impossible to escape, where she was flown across the country, isolated, and subjected to treatment that no one should ever endure. And that's where things get really frightening. If Jane Doe's claims are true, then Diddy's operation wasn't just about the entertainment industry. It was something far darker and more organized.
And if he's allowed to go through with any of the sales, I won't be able to recoup any of my monies or anything from him as a result of any possible judgment in this action, if he's allowed to proceed with it. And an injunction or a restraining order would help ensure that he's not manipulating and selling the property to avoid.
It's clear that Diddy didn't act alone, and that's where the story starts to unravel in the most shocking way. His employees, his associates, they were all part of this underground empire. These were the people who allegedly helped him organize his secret events, who made sure that everything stayed under the radar, and they weren't just passive bystanders. Some of them are accused of actively participating, helping Diddy control and manipulate his victims, ensuring that his empire of silence remained intact. It's chilling to think that an entire network of people might have been involved in this, and yet for so many years, no one dared to say a word.
Well, one of the things that's going to happen, and I do believe that there has been a grand jury investigation that has been employed in this case. I think there may be a federal investigation going on, and there may be a stateside one, but I'm not totally sure. But one of the things that the prosecution in any case is going to try to do is show that there is a pattern of behavior.
And now, with this class action lawsuit coming together, it feels like all of that is finally coming to light. Lawyers are working around the clock, gathering testimony, building a case that could finally bring down one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment world. But it's not just about Diddy. As we said before, there are whispers that he's just a pawn in a much larger game. The people who really run things, the ones who've been in the shadows all along. They're the ones who've been in the shadows all along. They're the ones who might truly be responsible for this empire of silence. The list of victims grows longer by the day. From Cassie to Joy Dickerson-Neal, from Jane Doe to countless others who are now coming forward with their own stories, it's clear that Diddy's actions have affected more people than anyone could have imagined. And the terrifying part is that we might not even know the full scale of it yet. There are likely more victims out there, people who are still too afraid to speak up, or who feel like no one would believe them. But with this class action lawsuit, they finally have a chance to be heard.
That's of course. There's layers upon layers. When you get into these conspiracy theories, man, they never end. They never end. There's just layers upon layers upon layers.
As the victims' legal teams prepare for what is sure to be a high-profile showdown, the world is watching. It's a race against time now, with the lawyers determined to make sure Diddy doesn't slip through the cracks again. The stakes are higher than ever, and this case has the potential to not only bring Diddy to justice, but to expose the entire system that allowed him to operate for so long. We're talking about an underground empire that stretches far beyond one man, an empire built on silence, manipulation, and power. So, as Diddy sits in his mansion, celebrating what he likely thinks is a victory, the legal teams are working tirelessly to ensure that this story doesn't end here. The victims are demanding justice, and they're not backing down. The scale of this lawsuit is unprecedented, and the accusations keep piling up, painting a picture of a man who allegedly believed he was untouchable. But now, the walls are closing in.
Not only should he have apologized to Cassie in that video, he should have apologized to all of the general public that he lied to.
The victims are calling for Diddy to be put back behind bars, and this time, they want it to be for good. They've already reached out to the FBI, and they're making it clear that they won't rest until justice is served. With each new lawsuit, with each new victim who steps forward, the case against Diddy becomes stronger. And as the public watches this all unfold, one thing is clear: this is far from over. The next few months will be crucial. Diddy's legal team may be celebrating now, but they're about to face the fight of their lives. The victims, their lawyers, and the public, they're all waiting to see if justice will finally be served or if Diddy will manage to slip through the cracks once again. And with the scale of this class action lawsuit, it's clear that this is going to be a battle unlike any other. But here's the question that everyone is asking. Will the truth finally come out, or will this underground empire continue to thrive in the shadows? Will Diddy finally be held accountable for his actions, or will he walk away from this just like he's done so many times before? One thing's for sure, the world will be watching closely, and no matter what happens next, this story is far from over. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.